Hello again, Eagle County. My name's Heath Harmon. I'm the Director of Public Health and Environment here at Eagle County. And I know it's been a while since I've had a chance to talk with y'all, but I wanted to talk and visit around quarantine. Quarantine is an important tool that we use to help slow the spread of COVID-19 in our community. And it's also an area that we've gotten a lot of questions over the past several weeks. So what I wanted to do today is walk through some of those questions, provide some answers, and ultimately help connect you with additional resources. So one thing that I wanted to put out there for you right now is that if you have additional questions beyond what I'm covering here, simply go to eaglecountycovid.org, and there will be a number of different links that you can access. In addition, there's a number of other resources, right? So if you yourself are in quarantine right now and you need access to any behavioral health support systems, food assistance, or things like that, again, you'll find all those links at eaglecountycovid.org. So the first question is, what does it mean if I need to be quarantined? Okay, so what this means is you've likely then had an exposure to somebody that has COVID-19. And so what we want you to do is to be staying at home for the next 14 days. That means not going to school, not going to work, not going to other extracurricular activities. Staying at home is really important. Again, the illness can be spread 2 days before symptoms develop for you while you're in quarantine. So what the quarantine does is it really decreases the number of people that you're going to be around. Therefore, it actually then helps reduce the amount of additional spread. So this is really key. So with quarantine, you're going to stay at home for 14 days. Those 14 days is because of the incubation period. It takes up to 14 days to develop symptoms after you've been exposed. And so we need you to be able to stay at home for those 14 days. This is a critical part of our of breaking sort of that disease transmission chain. And so by you quarantining, it's not only helping you and your friends and your family members, but it's also helping others in the community. So next question we get an awful lot is, can the period of quarantine be shortened if I test negative? Unfortunately, there's nothing that we can do to shorten that quarantine period. Like I mentioned, the incubation period is 14 days, and that's what the quarantine period is based on. And so realistically, even if you get tested and you're negative at day 5, all that means is that on day 5 you're negative. It doesn't mean that by day 11 or day 13 that you won't be positive or have symptoms develop or be infectious. And unfortunately, we have seen this a number of times in our own community where people are getting those symptoms on days 13 or even 14. So again, there's nothing that we can do, unfortunately, to actually shorten the quarantine period. So the next question we get an awful lot is, what do I do if somebody in my house is getting tested for COVID-19? Now, first and foremost, what we want everybody to know is that quarantining as soon as possible after that last known exposure is really important. So if you have somebody in your household that's getting tested for COVID-19, you should also stay home at that point in time. If that person develops or tests positive rather for COVID-19, then what that means is that you've already started that quarantine period, and then that also starts to reduce the likelihood that you're going to spread this to other people. So this is really important. So even if you're a child and your parent is going in to get tested, we've seen this happen a couple of times already where we still end up sending the child to school. Unfortunately, a day or two later, that child also has developed illness, and then we have to quarantine the other classmates and teachers that potentially were exposed. So really important for us. I think actually half of the times that in our school system we've actually had to implement quarantines, we probably could have prevented it if actually everybody in the household was staying at home while we were waiting for those test results. So that's a real important tip, but helpful, and I think what that will do is actually decrease the amount of disruption that we're seeing at our places of business and definitely in our schools. So the last thing that I wanted to talk about is, are there times when I'm in quarantine that I can actually leave the house? And so first thing that I want to mention is, let's face it, quarantining is hard. It's requiring or asking you to be at home for 14 days. And a lot of times you're going to feel fine during those 14 days. So there is a way that we can find a balance here. And so realistically, whether it's our physical health or emotional health, getting outside and exercising is still something that we want people to be able to do. So as long as you're alone, as long as you're wearing your mask while you're out, going for a hike, walking the dog, or even Nordic skiing, all of those things are okay. That's how we can at least find a balance through the quarantine period where you're protecting others, but at the same time you're also protecting your physical and your emotional well-being. So those are all the questions that we have for quarantining. I hope this is helpful. If you have additional questions, you can simply go to eaglecountycovid.org. We have a lot more information there for you. Thanks again for doing your part to help slow the spread in our community.